What you just saw there was stabilized footage of Yuffie's eye. Stay tuned, because later in this video, I'm gonna zoom in even closer. What is up, Philroaders? I'm Joshua Thomas, and this week it has just blown up about what is the reflection in Yuffie's eye. We got the final trailer to Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, and it dropped a lot of really cool imagery, a lot of story elements, way more than we probably thought we were going to get, even in the final trailer, even though the game is just a month away from release. So the one thing that got everyone's attention was one of the last scenes where we get this really big close-up of Yuffie's eye and a reflection in that eye, and a lot of people came up with a lot of interesting theories about what she was looking at. The three biggest theories, however, are simply that it's, just the platefall, or it's Cait Sith looking at the platefall, or it's Vincent Valentine. So, in this video, I'm going to take a really, really close look, and we're going to see if we can figure out what it is that she's actually looking at. So the first thing I'm going to try and do is just kind of debunk Vincent Valentine. I personally don't think that this is what we see in the reflection in Yuffie's eye, but I can also kind of understand where people are coming from. At a glance, that dark figure or that dark object in the center of her view, kind of has this kind of resemblance of a hunched over Vincent. But in looking at this close-up and in motion tracking it, I've got a few discrepancies here, not only just with the image, but also with the story in general. A lot of people are saying, hey, we've got the Sviets, we've got Deep Ground, so if we've got Deep Ground, we can have Vincent early too, right? Well, they are planning on changing a lot of things, but this is one of those things that I don't think they are planning on changing. You see, Vincent doesn't discover Deep Ground and the Sviets until 3 years after the events of the original Final Fantasy game, or in this case, the remake. Of course, they're still remaking it, so, everything's open. Nevertheless, I don't think they're gonna change the story that much. And if nothing else, they are going to have Vincent run into them for the first time in part 2 or part 3, whenever he joins the party. But nevertheless, let's take a closer look at Yuffie's eye and see what we can see. So the first thing you're going to see, I'm going to show you guys the stabilized, motion-tracked version of her eye. And it's a lot easier to see what's there, and that dark spot in the middle, a lot of people say is Vincent. But here's my first clue that I don't think it's Vincent, and you've got to look at Yuffie's hair. Just look at Yuffie's hair and look at how much it's waving, and then take a look at Vincent Valentine and look at all the hair and loose clothing that he has. If you look at Yuffie's turtleneck, even her turtleneck is wafting in the wind a little bit, but nevertheless, you don't see any movement whatsoever, even in this less than a second of video in the reflection in her eye. There's no cloth moving, there's no hair waving, it's just whatever it is a steel solid object. So yeah, that's my big clue right there, that it's not Vincent. So I'm going to go ahead and mark him off, and we're just going to move on to the next thing that it could possibly be, the next big thing that people are theorizing, and that is Cait Sith. So everyone thinks that this scene takes place during the plate fall, and for good reason. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail later. But who else is at the plate fall and who just has this kind of mysterious cameo in the remake part 1? And that's Cait Sith. He literally has one scene. He shows up, pounds his fist on the ground as he's watching Sector 7 plummet, and that's it. There's no explanation, and new fans to the series who have never seen him before have no clue who he is. So, nevertheless, people are thinking that maybe it's Cait Sith hunched over, when at the end of his scene, kind of in distress after what he's seen. Maybe it's him that they see in the reflection. But there are a few discrepancies here as well. What we have in Yuffie's scene is a lot of hot embers flying through the air. And then if you look at Cait Sith's scene, you'll see that there's no embers anywhere to be seen. And you might be thinking, well, Josh, depending on who the editor was, there's lots of discrepancies in the editing in certain cutscenes. Midgar might look this way, and then another part of the development team worked on this other scene, and that's why Midgar looks a little different, or this item looks a little different. But if we look just a little bit further after Cait Sith's scene, we do see lots of hot embers flying through the air underneath the plate. So I'm willing to bet that Yuffie is much lower on the plate than Cait Sith. Remember, Cait Sith is controlled by Reeve, who is in one of the top floors of the tower in Shinra HQ. And so chances are Cait Sith is much higher up on the building than Yuffie would be. Yuffie was probably in one of the more basement-y levels when the plate fell, and she was on maybe a catwalk or something. And more clues to this, if we look at the background in both scenes with Cait Sith and with Yuffie, we can see that with Cait Sith, there are buildings far off in the background. They're kind of blurry, but they've got windows on them, and then there's also a large pipe appearing behind him as well. If we move over to Yuffie's scene, the best image of the background we have is here, and we can see that it's definitely way different. She's much closer to the buildings. They're much more in focus, so that tells me that they're closer to her. There's some kind of tank structure with a catwalk on top of it, and then there's also this building next to her that forms kind of a giant arc. I'm not sure exactly where that is, and we do see lots of small piping, but then there's also one large pipe up in the upper right-hand corner. It's very dark, but it makes a right-angle turn, and usually we only see these giant pipes in the city center, right where the Midgar HQ is. We can venture to guess that based on the other footage that we've seen in the trailer of her fighting deep ground characters and fighting Scarlet, that maybe they are somewhere in that center pillar, just lower on it. Either that, or they are at one of the reactors. I'm going to keep this section short. I tried looking at other video footage of Midgar, and I couldn't really pinpoint any location where she might be standing. So I'm going to say it's either a reactor, either reactor 7 or 8, or she is just somewhere lower on the HQ. That's my two clues right there as to it not being Cait Sith that she's seeing. But I'll also superimpose Cait Sith's scene, freeze frame of that, with the reflection in Yuffie's eye. And this is a much closer view here. And even you can even look at this and see that the flames don't match up, and Cait Sith really doesn't match up either. And I'll go into a little bit more detail once we zoom in and see the stabilized footage. So here we go. When we zoom in, you'll notice that only 10.2% of people are subscribed to the Failroad Express who are watching our videos. Come on, guys. It only takes Yeah, I know. I totally stole that from Blitz. You can let him know. It only takes, just pressing that button one time, and it doesn't hurt. It's totally free, and it really helps our channel out. So anyway, on to what you really wanted to see. Here is the motion tracked, really big close-up of Yuffie's eye. And it's actually kind of surprising what we see here. After looking at this for a really long time while editing this video, I've noticed that what is in her eye is a still image. Even though she's moving, what is in her eye is not moving. Nothing is moving. In fact, anything that you perceive to be moving is most likely just being distorted by the teardrop forming in her eye, or just by her movement left and right, up and down, or just, moving her eyes around a little bit. But yeah, the close-up of what we see in the middle, the dark figure, it being a total still kind of opens it back up to being, yeah, I know, Vincent Valentine. I still don't think it's him, but I also still don't think it's Kate Seth. And you can see here that there appears to be some kind of railing structure that she's looking at, and maybe there is some computer equipment to the right of the dark figure. But then over to the left, you definitely see that there is some kind of railing or pipe work that you can see beyond with, and you can see the hot, smoldering plate fall beyond it. So it's also possible that she's witnessing the plate fall from a little bit later, like maybe it's already fallen and all that smoke and embers that are blowing by her is just from the intense fires that are burning. But anyway, I think this video has gone on long enough, and I do want to point out that what I think it could be, since she does have the blood on her cheek and on her armor, I'm thinking, and based on her reaction, that it's either Sonon who is in that dark, shadowy area, or it's one of the other Avalanche members of the cell that she was involved with. Hate me if you like, I don't think it's Vincent. I don't think we're going to see Vincent until part 2 towards Nibelheim. And let me know what you think in a comment below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more board game and video game videos, including more theory crafting and other videos involving Final Fantasy VII Remake and however many parts they make for the remake. Thank you for checking out my video. See you next time.